The fashion industry doesn't follow trends, we create the trends. Create the trend of unity, create the trend of inclusivity, create the trend of anti-racist behaviors, create the trend of fair hiring practices, create the trend of hiring Black and brown people in executive senior decision-making roles. Create that trend and then lead that trend all the way through the rest of time so the rest of the world can follow suit. Hi, my name is Stoudemire. I am the CEO and co-founder of Fashion for All Foundation. In 2016, it was a very hard week for the Black community when Alton was murdered by police for selling CDs outside of a convenience store. And then the very next day, Philando Castile was murdered on video, sitting in a passenger seat with the 3-year-old daughter of his girlfriend in the back seat. I was on the sales floor at the time. I worked at Lanvin, and myself and my coworkers were watching these videos, and no one paused to ask me how I felt or if I was okay. But the fashion industry as a whole did not speak up, acknowledge, or even send prayers up for the Black community, while just 3 weeks earlier, the shooting at Pulse nightclub garnered so much national attention. But the fashion industry, corporate America, no one said anything or acknowledged what was going on. And that is where I noticed the deafening silence. There was no call for a Blackout Tuesday during that week. There were no Black Lives Matter posts. And at this time, Black Lives Matter already existed. In 2016, and even before then, Black people dying, Black men and women being murdered by police is just as much urgency back then as it is today. So once I processed my feelings over the anger, the upset, the just totally incensed and infuriated at the fashion industry silence, I decided to act on it, because 2 years ago, I wanted to do something when Tamir Rice and Eric Garner were murdered, but I was honestly afraid. I didn't think the industry would stand behind me. I didn't even think my peers would show up. It was always my idea to occupy the space during Fashion Week, since that's where the world's lenses are at the moment. And why not use that stage to bring a positive message about and bring awareness and acknowledgement to the Black community who is being murdered before our very eyes on video. And the fashion industry has a responsibility not to ignore what's going on. I emailed everyone in my network and asked them to join me the very next week and to come and do a silent demonstration and protest Fashion Week with me. And it was amazing. It was the perfect amount of people. We were outside for 6 hours, but the beautiful thing is only after about an hour and a half, the photographer who shot it went viral. The CFDA noticed it, and Stephen Cole made a decision to post it on CFDA's Instagram. And once he made that decision and allowed that to happen, the rest of the industry followed suit. And before I knew it, there were a line of reporters while I was still protesting with my hands up and just in formation. They were standing in line to interview me about that protest and why I did it. That is literally the creation of Fashion for All Foundation. The very next day, me and my co-founder Ali decided to turn it into a movement and promote diversity and inclusion in the industry so we don't have to deal with this anymore going forward. Fashion for All Foundation is a nonprofit organization, and we promote diversity and inclusion in the fashion industry through education and empowerment. We have 4 main objectives at Fashion for All Foundation. Number 1, we make sure that we educate fashion brands, corporations, organizations on the importance of diversity and inclusion in the workspace, on the corporate level, in the C-suite, and in decision and senior creative roles. And another objective is that we work with students. So minority students, that's our target demographic, especially Black and brown students. We want to level the playing field, and we want to make sure they have entry and access like everyone else to enter this industry, and we give them permission to go after their creative pursuits. Number 3, we empower Black and brown employees. We create safe spaces, panel discussions, and overall conversations to give them a space to talk about and speak freely about some of their plight in the fashion industry. And we together come up with creative solutions to overcome these obstacles and to change it for the better. And 4, we hold brands accountable. We don't just want to educate them and have it be a one-time occurrence. The 8-week summer intensive program literally is just the heartbeat of Fashion for All Foundation, because we deal with the young people, we deal with the next generation who will occupy these spaces and lead the fashion industry forward. And we go into the public school systems, we go into the community colleges, we go into those forgotten communities and boroughs, and we seek that talent out. We seek out the interests, and we have our ages from ages 12 to 24. One of my highlights is when we brought them to meet Tommy Hilfiger. We told them we were coming to the Tommy Hilfiger Corporation, and so they can see the corporate space, see what a showroom looks like. We're really huge on exposure. But they didn't know that Tommy Hilfiger himself would actually be in the meeting to speak with them. We were slotted to have 30 minutes with Tommy. He ended up spending an hour and a half with our students. He made sure that he took pictures and videos, and he signed everything they wanted him to sign. And that changed a lot of our students' lives. Another key area that's very crucial is our mentorship matching program, where we'll match our students with an established designer, and they mentored them through their entire design process. So if it's portfolio building or a critique of their collection, they have a established designer who can walk them through that process. And our internship placement, after they complete our program, we place them at a established brand, and they of course go through the entire interview. But our students are so well versed in fashion history education and professional and personal development that the designers have no choice. They're coming in like above the rest of the candidates, because we have intensely trained them to be the best in this industry, because we don't want to give anyone any excuses. We want to make sure that they have the same access as anyone else. So breaking the silence, I was having the hardest time, because I was saying, I am feeling the same feelings coming up from 4 years ago. This is not happening again. No, I can't go out in the middle of a pandemic and protest again. Like I can't create a silent demonstration. Why is this happening again? Why are we here again? So I thought of the second best thing to do, and that was to create a virtual campaign and have that go viral. And this is before the Black Square came, and I was calling on the fashion industry once again: break your silence, become aware of what's going on. I know you're aware of it, but break your silence by admitting you're aware, break your silence by acknowledging it, break your silence by taking action after you acknowledge something is very wrong. The morning of Black Tuesday, I was conflicted, because while, Fashion for All Foundation, we launched Breaking the Silence campaign. That campaign is rooted in awareness, acknowledgement, action, and commitment. Black Tuesday seemed to be rooted in a one-time posting of a black towel, and that it didn't say anything. The black towels all of a sudden popping up all over Instagram. Where were you guys in 2016? Where were you in 2014 when Eric Garner was murdered? Where were you in 2014 when Tamir Rice was murdered? And it came across as tokenism, and we see that same tokenism in hiring practices and the diversity efforts in the day-to-day over the past 3 years in the fashion industry. So that didn't feel good at all, to see that being played out again in real life over something so very serious. It wasn't enough. There was a line drawn in the sand this time, and it was very clear. And you were either racist or you were anti-racist. But gone are the days of being non-racist, because when you're non-racist, that gives you space to be quiet and be complicit. But when you're anti-racist, that requires action. And that's what Breaking the Silence was about. We're requiring action now. One of my hopes with breaking the silence was to literally address the elephant in the room in the fashion industry. It's always been there, and people kind of just ignore it and walk around it. This is an accountability campaign. And some ways that you can break your silence and you can change these behavior patterns that perpetuate the systemic racism and oppressive ways in the fashion industry is by acknowledging the white privilege. And instead of being quiet and knowing your Black colleague is being paid way less than you and they are in a higher position than you, you can be open with your pay. Or we can speak about hiring on senior creative roles and senior decision-making roles. If you know that your executive team is made up of 10 white people and 1 Black person, say so. I mean, it shouldn't take someone dying for you to speak about what's right and wrong. This is right and wrong. This isn't discomfort versus comfort. So it's a lot of complacency going on in the fashion industry, and a lot of it is because white people benefit from it. So while you're not actively racist, those are ways that you are 100% benefiting from a racist system. And one behavior, you can change it today. Speak up, just by speaking up and saying, this is wrong, we need to change this. Hold your team accountable, because you know, Black and brown people aren't in those rooms to hold them accountable. Breaking the silence, it took off. I mean, it did really well on the first day. I mean, I wanted it to go viral, but I didn't expect it to do or perform as well as it did. And so by the second day, when I saw Tracy Reese resharing it and Gabriella Hurst resharing it and Philip Lim resharing it and Prabhu Baroom resharing it and the CFDA reposting it, it struck a chord with so many people that by day 3, day 4, my inbox was flooded. Like, there are still emails that I have not been able to answer because the outpour of support and genuine answering the call and stepping up to the plate has been so overwhelming. I just keep telling our students, like, you guys, this is about to be the best summer program yet. People are finally realizing what's wrong, and I'm definitely going to give them the space to do that. I'm going to hold them accountable, and I'm going to engage with them in real ways so they can see it doesn't take much for you to lend your platform to change a life. It really doesn't, and that's what you're doing. You're changing someone's entire course of their life, and it's worth that. Finally, once and for all, burying the notion and getting past the fact that it was even considered that fashion could be apolitical. If you are dressing the First Lady of the United States of America, you have occupied a political space. So if you are going to let her wear your dress, and I'm talking about First Lady Michelle Obama, occupy your platform and speak up for those who come from her Black community. Use your platform just like you did when you dressed her and put it over all of the fashion pages and media outlets. So you can't pick and choose when you want fashion to be political. The fashion industry is one of the most influential industries. It plays the biggest responsibility in this movement forward. And so if you can influence people to wear green one season or blue or all Black, or we're wearing yellow, we're back to yellow, then you can influence people to speak up and stand on the right side of justice. That's the most important way you can influence anyone, is when it changes the world to be better. And silence it's just not an option. You are either silent and racist, or you're vocal and you're anti-racist, and you're working actively towards anti-racist behaviors. This time around feels very different, and that's what I'm most excited about. I mean, I literally every day is Christmas morning for me, because I wake up every day and the momentum is still here. And one way that I will personally keep this momentum going, I am not being quiet. My campaign is called Breaking the Silence. Who would I be if I became silent? So you will hear me on every single platform. I will be very much in your face. And this is to every brand in the fashion industry, every decision maker, every leader in the fashion industry. If the momentum is not kept going, if you don't keep the momentum going, and if I don't see or hear about actions taking place behind the scenes, you put your black square up, you made your statement, but where is the ongoing commitment? I will personally see to it that you are held accountable, and we will continue to speak, yell, protest, scream, be irate and angry until you take this very serious and you work it into the very foundations of your organizations. It's time for equitable practices in the workplace, and Fashion for All Foundation will see to it. It is our mission that we accomplish that.